Hey YouTube, Wes here. Hope you guys are doing great. So late last night, Coinbase announced that Mina, a new crypto, is available for trade on the Coinbase platform. And I thought, what is Mina? I've never seen it before. I knew nothing about it. So in this video, I'm going to give you my review on what I think about Mina, why Coinbase accepted it, and how it's done lately. It's had some great funding. It's got some very innovative features alongside some clever marketing and some surprisingly wild price history that may bode not so great for the platform. I'm going to tell you what I think about Mina. We're going to dive into it and so much more coming right up. All right, guys, welcome back to the channel. So glad you guys have joined with me today. As we jump into this, would you hit like and subscribe, share this with a friend? I know every YouTuber asks it, and so do I, but it really goes a long way as we get closer and closer to climbing to that 100,000 subscriber mark. I'm blown away. It should happen this year, but it'll only happen if you guys whack that subscribe button. First of all, thank you to my subscriber. That guy, oh yeah, me right here, this guy. So guess what, guys? I wanted to announce this. I'm pumped about it. I now have my very first crypto class complete, soup to nuts, beginning to end. Everything you need to know about one of the coolest crypto ecosystems out there, which is osmosis. I want to show this to you right here. The class is now online, and I would love for you to join. Like literally minutes ago, it just went online. So currently, look at this. Sad face, 0 stars, 0 rating, 0 students. And I've got it as cheap as possible. It's normally $30, but it's over 50% off. So $14, like that is cheap as cheap can get. I would love for you guys to jump in and take the class. Do it as a thank you to me and leave a 5-star review so we can get this going. If you don't know much about osmosis, I've talked about it a little bit on the channel, but it is absolutely one of the coolest things out there. So definitely give that a look. So as we jump into the news today, here's how I found out about this. So I saw the Mina protocol tweet, and I also saw Coinbase talk about this as well. And so that's how I got clued into it. And then I also saw around the same time my Coinbase notifications on my phone said Mina is now available for trade. And I thought what you thought. What the heck is Mina, and why did Coinbase accept it, and what's going on with all this? Remember, I am not a Coinbase insider, so I have no idea on the cryptos that Coinbase is imminently about to accept into their platform. And there's a lot to be said on when coins come into Coinbase, how the price often, there's a lot of action that happens with it, a lot of volume, a lot of buying, a lot of selling. A lot of times the price will just skyrocket for a short period of time and then nosedive, and it's volatile. And so I don't normally recommend that people buy something right as it gets added into Coinbase, but you should definitely put your eyes on it because when Coinbase accepts a new token or a new coin, there's usually some kind of reason for it. So here is Mina right here. Here is their announcement. You can actually check this right here. Again, everything I showed today, as always, will be all in the link description, so you can check out all of this on your own. I'm not going to show the blog article because it's really pretty short, but here's Mina announcing it. And if you take a look at their Twitter page right here, you can see about 186,000 followers. Minaprotocol.com is the website, and you can see more about, who they are and what this is all about. But what I thought I would do, normally I save tokenomics more towards the back end of a review, but I want to start with it because there's some interesting things that you can see in this. So currently Mina is ranked at number 71, and that's not uncommon. You can see this ranking right here. It's not super uncommon in the world of Coinbase that they're not going to just accept a total upstart. It's not even in like the top 200. So definitely something to keep an eye on. And I've even heard of some people like looking specifically for top 100 coins that are not in Coinbase, and then they invest in those. That's a highly speculative thing to do, and I would never recommend that. But I do think it's an interesting way to find cryptos that have some potential. We can also see some information around all of this. We can see that it is proof of stake, sorry. So it's a staking algorithm, which gives you capability to earn on it without having to put a ton of compute resources into it. And it's got zero knowledge proofs. Zero knowledge is some interesting stuff, and we're going to dive into that a little bit at a high level so you can kind of understand what makes a zero knowledge and how it's trying to do some things differently with shortening the amount of burden that exists in running nodes and getting things set up, and ultimately reducing the size of a blockchain, at least from the user's perspective. So we're going to talk about that. Also notice right here, Coinbase Ventures portfolio. So this is interesting. I'm going to open this up so you can see it. Here, I think this goes back to like, who is Coinbase investing investing in. These are the ones that Coinbase has put some money in. And hear me, look, I like Coinbase. They're not the be all end all. They've got a lot of problems and mistakes that they've made over the years as well. So don't hear me say that they're the only ones that you should look at. But here are a lot of them. And notice you see a pretty big drop off here, don't you? Like, so you see the top 100s, a lot of these you've probably heard of. But then as you get into the 100s, 200s, and even further, there's some like Rarible, which is like an upstart, competitor in the NFT marketplace. I've seen a lot of information around them. I mean, there's a lot of these that are not doing nearly so well. Much smaller is probably a better way to say it. But Coinbase has put some attention and some investment money into it. There's got to be something they like in these. So definitely check these out. This is certainly an interesting way to find some crypto projects that you may have a lot of interest in. And always do your own research. Don't listen to YouTubers like me. You're going to go broke if you listen to YouTubers. They don't know what they're talking about. Okay, so going back to here, CoinMarketCap. So it's sitting at about $3.17 right now. It's down over the day. A market cap is 1.4 billion. As you guys know, I talk about market caps quite a bit. I like market caps that are typically over 500 million, but less than usually 5 billion. Those are cryptos that really have a lot of room to grow in the market cap space, which just means their total overall value, which is the price of the token times the number of current supply that's out there. That's market cap. Very easy to measure that. And when you look at cryptos that are under 500 million, they're volatile. They're typically very young. They may go to the moon, but there's just as good of a chance that they go absolutely nowhere. They're extremely speculative, extremely risky. And unless you're very foolhardy, you don't want to put all of your eggs into those baskets. Likewise, I don't know, 10 billion plus cryptos that are out there, like the top 25, top 30 that are on CoinMarketCap, those, while they're going to grow and do well, they're very, very stable, and you're not going to see huge swings up as well. So I really like this space somewhere between the 1 billion and 2 billion market cap. I really do like it. Fully diluted, you can see this right here. If you were to assume the entire supply of Mina were out right now, which it's not because it's proof of stake, so they're still releasing more, it would be 2.6 billion. That's just a way to kind of understand, okay, I know the market cap of what it's worth today, but what if everything were out now? What if all Mina had been released? What would it be worth theoretically? And that's the number there. You can see 204 million has been traded in volume, which is quite a bit, and 448 billion Mina altogether. Now, taking a look a little bit beyond just the tokenomics and looking at the market, the one day, this is what I was talking about. So you can see, I think roughly somewhere around here is when we saw Coinbase release. And so you can see prices do what they always do. They spike right up, and then over time they drop right back down. This happens often within a one day within Coinbase because you got a lot of people that were in early that have been waiting for this day, waiting for this moment, and they sell off. At the same time, there's a ton of interest in it, and there's a lot of buying action from people that are like, well, this must be a great crypto. I'm going to get in early. And in a lot of ways, you're not getting in early, at least not as early as many of the people that got in through ICOs or through some kind of early investor status. And you can see even the volume spiking down here, right? So you can really see that correlation among the action, but that's less helpful and less useful for us as much as a 1 month, 3 month, and 1 year. So you can see over 1 month, it's really grown over its time period, right? I mean, some pretty healthy action here. 1.5 it looks like the low on March 15th, all the way up to, as we saw the recent highs today, around $3, the 3.5. So it's really doing quite well over time, but there's been some volatility that's in all of this as well. As we zoom out to 3 months, take a look at this. Notice, you see how this is an important point that we need to make. This is why looking at markets, you really have to weigh them out over the entire period by which you're going to hold, right? So if I'm holding over a day and I bought right now, not doing so well. If I bought, 7 days ago, I've been doing great. If I bought a month ago, even better. You see how all this works? So this really shows the perspective in being patient and holding. Oftentimes, a lot of like the rich, stodgy stock investors like Warren Buffett often say words like, the stock market is the way for the patient to make money from the impatient, in words like that. And I always think that's funny, but there's truth to this in crypto as well. But as we look down here at the 1 year, notice that overall, it's got some wildness that happens. Notice that it had a really big fall down all the way down to about $1 as a minimum price way back in July 21st. So we're going to cover a little bit of what's been happening here. This is a very volatile crypto for sure. And I want you to be aware of that. If you ever think about investing in this, just be aware that it's had some wildness that's happening. And you also see this on Coinbase themselves. So this one is really interesting. I pulled this out and I was shocked by this initially. So Coinbase is currently showing its current value around $3, right? But we go way back in time and look at this. This is showing that Mina was at some point worth up to like $70 to $90. Can that $100? Is that possible? I mean, look at that. That's kind of wild here. And we go back and we look right here in Coinbase. If we go to all time, notice that the furthest back that we see any information from in CoinMarketCap is roughly around June 3rd. But if we go back over here and we look at Coinbase, they're showing this data way back into April. So that makes us pause and think for just a minute, doesn't it? And say, is CoinMarketCap hiding something? Is that what's going on here? Are they trying to, like, I don't know, show some things or not show some things that Coinbase is? And if so, why is Coinbase showing it as high as $100 when when CoinMarketCap isn't? That's an interesting thought. It's something we definitely want to take a peek at. And we can actually get some information around this if we go back in time and we look at some information that surrounded in the March, April timeframe. And so this right here is from Cointelegraph. March 24th is the date that you can see right here. And we're not going to cover everything in this article, but there's a couple things I want to see. I want to show you. So title bottomed out. Mina raises 75% 9 days after hitting, rises 9 days after hitting its worst level to date. So going back to its volatility, right? If we scroll down, I'm going to kind of get into some of the information around all of this here. So one of the things that you need to know of, they talked about some big brutal sell-offs that saw it go from record high of 671 all the way down to $1.58. And you can see some information and price history around all of this of its volatility even back then, right? And so we saw way back then, before it was even available in Coinbase, it kind of going crazy and it kind of going up and down as small cryptos oftentimes can. And so they talked about this, and they talked about a ton of sell-offs that had happened, a 76.5% decline over that time period, way back months ago. And so, you know, it's pretty interesting to see some of this. And I wanted to show you a couple other things too. This is an article that I thought was pretty interesting as well. This comes from Stockhead. I don't typically read Stockhead, but this was helpful for us to go back in time a little bit more and also see what had happened. So Mina protocol problems. Mina protocol plunged by 2/3 to $3.13, which, if you think about it, that's not so bad, given its current value is $3.17, almost identical, right? Again, going back to our views on being patient, right? But it talks about what had happened with some stuff that had happened inside of their ICO. So you guys know I talk about ICOs somewhat on the channel, and by and large, I don't like ICOs because they can be extremely slimy. They're difficult for everyday Joes like you and me to jump into an ICO if you're not an accredited investor, and the SEC very much protects that. We're not talking about what accredited investors are, but it's very hard to get a hold of early ICO rounds in the US. And so typically what happens is it lets investors pad their pockets, buy something super cheap, and then sell off as quickly as possible once it goes to main market, like a Coinbase. And that's a little bit of what we're going to see through the story here, right? So Mina sold 18.75 million worth of tokens to 40,000 participants at 25 cents a piece, way back in early May of last year. That's a great deal, looking at even at $3, right? So if you had gotten in on this really early, you could have done very well. Capped at $500 to allow most people to participate. But then even before that, they allowed even investors, even for if you're institutional, right? So if you're a larger institution or you make up an accredited investor on behalf, it's in with an institutional investor or institutional corporation, right? So we see this here. We see IOU tokens traded as high as 60 or even $90. And now we're like, okay, now I get it. If we go back over here, what you're seeing from Coinbase very likely is the IOUs, the speculative price trading before the tokens were out. And so, whoa, now we get the idea of what had happened with this volatility. And so I initially saw this. I'm like, I need to make sure everyone sees this on my channel so they understand. Yes, there's been wild speculation with the early ICO, trading on IOUs for crypto that's not really even out there yet. But then once it calmed down, it got much more stable. And so if we zoom out of that and we sort of take a look here, you know, in the past 1 month, you see much more stability according to what you saw before. So there you have it. So that brings up some questions of what the heck is Mina protocol? I know that was a lot of words I had to use, but I just needed you guys to understand it has been extremely volatile in the past and wanted to explain why. But over the past, I don't know, 6 months, it's been much, much more stable. So let's talk about what Mina is as a whole. And let's kind of dive into this a little bit. So one of the things they talk about, they say Mina is building the privacy and security layer for Web3. And I need to see more from them to understand what they mean on the privacy and security layer. We know that Web3 is taking off like crazy. We're seeing more and more Web3 projects. Really, Web3 is just sort of a class of technology that goes beyond Web2, which now are including the blockchain incorporated into web services. So things like I can just put MetaMask on my browser and buy an NFT, and then I can see the NFT on a website and blah, 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 right? That's all Web3 stuff. I'm not talking about that too much today, but notice that they're really trying to build inside of it. But what's really interesting to me is a couple different things. So they call their apps ZK apps, zero knowledge apps. And I think that's pretty interesting. It allows smart contracts. It is a layer 1 crypto. So it's not like running on top of Ethereum, for example. It's its own crypto. And I really do like innovative new layer 1s, even though they have a lot more challenge to compete because they're going to have to go after and compete against all these other great layer 1s like Cosmos and Solana and Ethereum and Binance and all of these others that are out there. The SDK that's coming out, that's the software development kit for developers that want to build on top of it. It's based on TypeScript. TypeScript is a very well-known JavaScript, Microsoft owned or Microsoft maintained JavaScript platform that lets you build on. So that's kind of nice because it should attract developers and because it's familiar. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. Mina blockchain, 22K. How the heck can a blockchain be 22 kilobytes? Okay, remember how I told you guys that there is a little bit of marketing fluff that's in all of this? I think the answer to that question of how it can be 22K really comes down to this right here. How do you define a blockchain? Because if you define a blockchain as every single transaction of record from beginning to end, it is not 22K. It's impossible. You're probably thinking about that thinking, the second they have even a few transactions happen, there's no way that it could be 22K. I mean, a tweet is probably 22K. So it's not possible. And that's true, right? You're going to see how they define their blockchain a little differently, how they get away with it. But it has some, even though some of that's marketing fluff, it has some major advantages, which I'll talk about because you need to understand some of those things as well. So they're talking about other blockchains, 300 gigs and larger. And that's so true, right? So like, for example, I have some very, 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 very old Cardano that I'm trying to recover from an old wallet. I actually got access to it, but in order to recover it, I have to spin up my own node. And it's taken me many hours to get the node up and running and fully downloaded so that I can actually upgrade the Cardano old wallet to something new and move the funds away and start staking it. So that's, as you guys know, that's gigs and gigs and gigs and gigs. So that's kind of their big differentiator. They're like, we don't have so much data that you have to download. Well, how do they get away with that? How is it? So what they're not doing is they're not like these web wallets that people often download, or you put your like Bitcoin in with like a Celsius, or which is awesome, by the way, or you put your crypto in with like a Yoroi wallet for Cardano, for example, and they are the ones that hold the node for you. And so all you do is you put your funds in with the wallet, so to speak. You don't have to download the node, right? That is not how Mina is working. In fact, Mina is like, we don't like that. We don't like that blockchains have become so crazy large that you only have one of two choices. You either maintain your own node and use that for security purposes, but they're super large and you're wasting gigs of space just for it. Or two, you put your crypto in with some kind of web wallet, sacrifice security and let them maintain the node for you. And you sort of trust some of that because they're somewhat custodial in how the whole thing works. They're like, neither of those are good options. And so their view from all of this is, why don't we just use zero knowledge that gives us the ability to prove your identity and prove that you have the rights to a transaction, but I don't need to store all the other data. That's called zero knowledge proof. I can proof myself without having to go back into prior knowledge and show what's happened on the blockchain to prove it. That's innovative. They're not the only ones that are doing this. There's a lot of other zero knowledge cryptos that are coming out, but I do think from a usability perspective, I have to be careful how I say this, it's innovative and it's needed because your average everyday Joe like me doesn't need to store hundreds of gigs on my own node just to be able to use a crypto. And that's going away. We're going to see that go away more and more and more because it's getting unwieldy. And this is the nature of crypto. As we innovate, we solve challenges that we never dreamed that we would have before. So this is what they talk about, I think, owning a lot of your own data. And they talk about because those zero knowledge smart contracts don't require you to have to give up your data to prove something, there's really cool use cases. So like they give one right here. Think about getting a loan by simply sharing proof of your personal ID and credit score rather than the data itself. So I can prove my credit score and that it is me that has access to it, but I don't actually have to share or give away data to make that happen. That's awesome, right? So I think that's what they mean by security and privacy in Web3 that you see on the top of their website. They are working towards bridges to other chains. Ethereum is the number one that they're working on a bridge for, and I think that's brilliant. As we know, Ethereum has so many different applications that are out there and use cases. So having a bridge from Mina to Ethereum is smart because it's going to give it the extensibility that it needs to grow. And there you have it. So there's a few other things as well. Every participant is a full node because of the lightweight blockchain, all that kind of stuff. So they've done well with funding as well. So this comes from Coinbase. This happened way back in October, so many months ago. But they talked about how the OI01 Labs, which I guess are the founders and creators of Mina, raised $10 million. So that was a further funding round. We're seeing a lot of crypto projects take venture capitalist funding. A lot of VC money is poured into the crypto space. If you guys don't know much about me, I am a serial entrepreneur, so I'm very well versed in the funding world and funding ecosystem. And now we're seeing a lot of this come in to Mina as well, and to many other cryptos as well. So that just gives them the capability for them to continue to grow, but also does make sure that they are beholden to venture capital, which is both good and bad. They got another round as well. Mina ecosystem gets 92 million financing. So they started with one of the 10 million. I don't think that was their first either, but where they're really getting into, and by the way, let's go back and reverse time here. So their $10 million round was in October. So fast forward a few months and they've grown, and now they raised another round, $92 million. And so a lot of this is going to help them continue to grow. This happened in March, very, very recently. So if you want to find cryptos that, are attracting a lot of VC attention and you want to get in on those just because of the attention and their hyper ability to grow, these are the kinds of press releases that you want to keep an eye out for. So you want to follow a lot of the big VCs that produce and invest in cryptos. You can see this one was led by FTX Venture. We know FTX, the exchange, and Three Arrows Capital. So definitely pay attention to some of these, because when you see these big funding rounds, they're going to continue to grow. Doesn't mean they're going to be successful, right? But I'm going to make sure that I have a link here so you can read on this as well. And then the last thing is, it is possible to run a node here. And there are reasons that you need to do that you need to run a node. And they talk about the difference between block producers and snark producers. I'm not going to cover too much of this right now, but what I will say for you guys is, if you are interested, let me know in the comments if you want me to dive in and cover a little bit more about running a node, how you can stake, and how you can grow your own Mina investment if that's of interest to you, because Mina is what drives this entire ecosystem. Those that run nodes and produce snarks are how you can grow your investment. So let me know if you're interested in it. So I want to finish on this. I realize this was sort of a longer video, but I'd never heard of Mina before, and it was new to me, and I was curious on why Coinbase adopted it. And then that led me into this huge rabbit trail of what's going on with the crazy price history. A lot of it is just ICO stuff I don't like, that it happened way back, almost a year ago. Then it got stable again, and I like where they're going. They've got good funding behind it. I do think they're hitting the right buttons in the next evolution of blockchain tech, which is zero knowledge, small blockchain sizes, at least for the consumer like you and me. So I'm not bloated with tons and tons and tons of disk space that I have to worry about. I think that's smart. It's definitely the future of where crypto is going. Now, do I think this is one that you should buy? I'll never tell you. Right? I will disclose and say I bought a little bit. I haven't gone all in on it, but I bought a little bit because I'm interested in it. But I think you need to do your own due diligence and see, does this fit my investor profile? Do I like where it's going? I don't do speculation on this channel. I won't tell you where I think the crypto is going to go in price, because the truth is I don't know, and nobody knows. But I will say a lot of the checks are in place that I like to see. Good founders, good credibility there, good funding coming into the ecosystem, good access, and it is innovative in at least riding the wave of where crypto as its current iterations is going. I think those are all big positives. So make your own decision. Do what you think about it. But do let me know what your decision is. Do you like Mina? Do you like where it's going? Do you think it has potential? Do you want to see some things additionally from this channel around it? You've just got to let me know in the comments, and I'd be glad to take a peek at that. Hey, while you're here, if you've been watching this whole time, would you hit like and subscribe? I mean it. It goes a really long way. And also check out the brand new Udemy course I have around staking and earning and liquidity pooling and osmosis. I think you're going to love the class at $14 current price because we got a 50% off. It's a no-brainer. I think you're going to really like it. And if you do like it, leave 5 stars. All right, guys, thank you so very much. Thanks.